Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Ever Forward Mindset Podcast. I'm your host and its founder, Michael Rebelo. I'm a 20-year-old entrepreneur who chose entrepreneurship over the traditional college path. I'm inspired and driven by my goal to help retire my mother and also help other mainstream middle Americans just like her learn about and invest in asset classes like apartment investing, gold, silver, and oil to build long-lasting financial freedom, time freedom, and to get back to the things that matter most. But here's the thing, okay? How did it all spark? What is the inspiration around a lot of entrepreneurs nowadays? What is the big thinking method that a lot of people use to break from the traditional path, to break from the grain of society, to start building something called true wealth? There's no one better that could talk about it than Sharon Lechter. It is a pleasure to have you on the show, by the way, an absolute honor.
Thank you, Michael. Always happy to be with you.
Absolutely. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure of working with Nathan Barkosi, who actually helped write Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth with Sharon Lechter, and I had the honor of attending the book launch in Scottsdale, Arizona in January of this year, and I had the pleasure of meeting Sharon Lechter also at America Fest 2025 in Phoenix. So Sharon, we've got a lot to cover today, but I want to dive into your story, your history. How did you get to where you are today, and what sparked that journey?
Well, I've been around a long time, Michael, so I'll try and give you the Cliff Notes version. But I was raised in a very lower middle class home. My dad was career Navy, retired when I was 8. And so we lived in a little tiny house between his used car lot, my mother's beauty shop. We owned rental properties, and I had to go scrub out bathrooms between tenants at the age of 10. So I say I've been a real estate investor since I was 10. And he had orange groves, and he would say, we talk about it at the dinner table, he'd say, Sharon, the oranges are my cash flow every year. But that property, the grove itself, the land is going to increase in value. And it did. It's now, when we sold it, it became the property under SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida. So I learned these things at the dinner table. And I learned about assets, liabilities, cash flow, and about creating wealth through generating assets. And I didn't realize it until I got out into the real world that people didn't understand that. I was the first generation of my family to go to college. I was the only woman in my accounting classes. I was one of the very first women in public accounting. And so I was always breaking through barriers and being a trailblazer for other women. But at 25, I was very successful in public accounting, but I was miserable. I wasn't in control of my own life. And I had a client invite me to go into an entrepreneurial endeavor. He was buying a company out of bankruptcy. And I went back to my condo and did the old pros and cons. Didn't help me a bit. My hand kind of took off across the top of the paper. Said, why not? Right? Why not do something different? Why not solve a problem or serve a need? And so why not became my mantra, and it's still my mantra today, many, many years later, because that's what triggers your entrepreneurial spirit. Why not solve a problem or serve a need? Successful businesses solve problems and serve needs. So if you're constantly asking yourself, why not? Unless the answer is it's illegal, give it a shot. Take that path less traveled. And so I made that decision. I left. It actually was not the best business decision of my life, but if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have met Michael Lechter. And we just celebrated 46 years of marriage. So
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. So Napoleon Hill said, out of every adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. So my worst business decision became my best life decision. So we got married, had kids. Our kids didn't like to read. I met the entrepreneur, the inventor of the very first talking children's book that had the sound strips down the side. And so I joined forces with him, and we built that industry around the world from 1987. And it was a time when kids had no electronics. Hard to imagine prior to your life, right, 1987. And so we did deals with little companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, Marvel Comics, because parents trusted those brands. And so if we aligned with them, they would trust us. And so we were able to explode that industry around the world very quickly. Sold it in 1991, moved to Arizona. 92, my oldest son went off to college in September, came home in December in credit card debt. We didn't even know he had a credit card. He got to campus and there was a table, free pizza, free money, another one, free t-shirt, free money. he had a really good time his first semester until he realized that that money wasn't so free. So he came home at Christmas in debt. That was December of 1992. I was mad at him, but I was more mad at myself because I thought I had taught him about money. And that's when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial education, financial literacy, entrepreneurship education, and I'm as passionate about it today as I was in December of 1992. Started working with school systems. Fast forward a few years, my husband called me one day. He's a well-known intellectual property attorney. And he said he had this guy come into his office with this idea for a board game. And that's when I met Robert Kiyosaki. I was the very first beta test for the board game Cash Flow. Loved it because it was exactly what I was teaching. And because of my experience in the Talking Children's Book Company and games, I just volunteered as a friend to help him commercialize the game. And at that process, he said he wanted to charge $200 for the board game. I said, that's pretty pricey. We're talking 1996.
That's a bit steep.
Yeah. I said, maybe you should write a brochure that explains the board game, the thesis behind it, so people are willing to invest that kind of money.
Right.
And that's when he asked me to become his partner. And we wrote that brochure together. And that brochure was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Most people don't realize that that book was not written as a product in its own right. It was written as a sales tool for the game. We never expected to write more than one book. But then we said, okay, we'll do a trilogy. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. Nope. So in our 10-year partnership, we did 15 books together. And we did a myriad of audio products and games, and we literally expanded into the largest personal finance brand in the world, 110 countries, 51 languages. And it was an incredible experience. We changed the way people think about money, which has always been my goal. And after that, we continue moving. I left after 10 years because he wanted to go into franchising. It was a great model for us, but not for the franchisees. So I left. I was asked by President Bush to be on the President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy. I served Bush and Obama. And then in the interim, 2008, the economy was in the tank. Napoleon Hill Foundation reached out to me and asked me to help reinvigorate his teachings. I did 4 books with them. And since then, I've done a myriad of other things through my company, Pay Your Family First. And my most recent book that you referred to, Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth, is really the next generation of education. Rich Dad, Poor Dad help people redefine money, understanding money. Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth redefines how we look at wealth.
Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And that is an incredible story of the lineage and the genealogy of your entire actual life, of how you got to this point. And I know you've helped millions of people along the way, but I kind of want to break down a couple of things for a moment. You are very familiar with real estate and cash flow and breaking free from the rat race. And in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there's a couple of different things that are mentioned in there. Assets versus liabilities. So people have assets and they still have liabilities, but how do you identify them, and then how do you address them to make sure that everything is flowing evenly?
Well, when you come to liabilities, there's good debt and there's bad debt.
Right.
Bad debt does not help you. It pulls you under. Good debt allows you to leverage. So for instance, a mortgage on a rental property where the tenants are paying you $1,000 a month and your debt is only costing you $500 a month. The other expenses are maybe $100. And so that you're getting a net positive cash flow every month of $400. That debt is good debt. That helps you increase the momentum of your wealth. And so that's something that you want to look for. What happens is sometimes get a little greedy and people leverage too much and they get right at the edge.
Yep.
And then there's a downturn in the economy and they end up upside down. So understand good debt is when you do it realistically, you look at the numbers, and it's something that helps you move your investment in the right momentum, in the right direction. And that's assets and liabilities. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. That's the easiest explanation I can share. And so always thinking about that. With every dollar you get, Michael, your paycheck, what you do for your paycheck doesn't determine your financial future. It's what you do with your paycheck that determines your financial future. Every dollar you get, are you going to let it go through your fingers, buy it, spend it, or are you going to reinvest it in yourself in buying, building, creating income-producing assets?
Absolutely. And you still have a lot of people today that are living paycheck to paycheck, and they think that's still the way. But you also have a lot of people that are saving up their money. They're putting in the CDs, the 401ks, the IRAs. They have the job, and they're budgeting, doing everything right. But here's the thing. They still feel financially trapped. How can they free themselves from this financial burden, even though they're doing everything right, but they still feel trapped? Like, you can't go on vacation, finances are getting tighter, their money's being eroded by the economy, the failing dollar. How can they untrap themselves from this financial burden that they can't even acknowledge?
Well, first they have to look at where their money's going. How are they spending their money? And are there ways that you can reduce your spending to increase your investment dollars? And then we go back to the concept of momentum of money. Is your money sitting in a savings account, which means inflation is higher than what you're earning? That's the wrong direction for your money. You want positive momentum for your money. So look at how you have your money invested. Are you making a positive move in the right direction, or are you actually taking a step back? And many times people, when they really sit down and look at it, they're losing money, not making money every year. So
Right.
That's why they never feel like they're going to get ahead. Start looking about how you can start investing in assets. And today it's never been easier because you can have a small amount of money and invest it in a real estate investment trust. You don't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in real estate. So once you start, establish that habit every single month of putting money aside to invest. And make it a habit, not an opportunity.
I love that. And I guess my next question would be, you have a lot of people that want to invest. They don't know where. Me personally, I have a real estate investment company. I do syndications, I partner with people, I do passive investing as well, and I have a lot of my friends and peers that do the same. But people ask me, why real estate? Why not the stock market? Why not crypto? Why not Bitcoin? And I always say that real estate is a hard, intangible asset, but I want to hear from you, Sharon. Why is real estate the way to go when it comes to investing and building wealth?
Well, 90% of the world's millionaires either made their money in real estate or hold their money in real estate because it does tend to hold its value over time. But when you talk about assets, there are assets own businesses. A business is an asset. Real estate investing is an asset. You have paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. You have commodities, gold, silver. You have digital currencies, all of those. And so a normal personal planner, financial planner, is going to tell you to diversify. But when they talk about diversification, they're talking about across paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds.
Right.
I teach diversification across asset categories, businesses, real estate, commodities, paper, so that when real estate goes down, others go up. We've seen that. We've seen gold go up when stock came down. All of those things, they fluctuate. So
Right.
Your best way to protect yourself against changes in the market is to diversify across all those asset categories. Real estate has the additional benefit of having tremendous tax benefits if you structure it correctly. And so that's why so many people turn to real estate to hold their wealth.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that too. And I want to kind of talk about entrepreneurship really quick. Writing your own book, starting your own company, starting your own investment company, or even a service where you can see, how can I provide a solution here? There's a lot of people that want to become entrepreneurs, but you have a lot of people that start and then they fail. And they can't figure out why. Because, I don't know how many one in whatever number entrepreneurs that start, they succeed. But Sharon, from your perspective of what you've seen and the people you've talked to, what do entrepreneurs get wrong right off the bat when they try to start a company?
Well, I would say the number one thing is, when you're an entrepreneur, you're the boss. Everybody looks to you for the answers. It's a very lonely gig. And so you want to have mentors. You want to have guidance. I wrote Exit Rich to help people understand how to build their foundation of their business. Because 95% of businesses don't last after the 5 years because they have not structured them properly. So you want to take a successful company and make it scalable, sustainable, and saleable, but you have to start with the structure of the business, and that's
Right.
very important. And understand that too many times a business owner, entrepreneur becomes the bottleneck in their company. They're too busy in the business, they're not working on the business, and the business is reliant on them. And so in my book, 3 Feet from Gold, with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, I talked about the personal success equation. And if you think about it, it's such a perfect thing for an entrepreneur to follow, because it's P plus T, your passion and your talent. Right? So my passion was actually anger. We weren't teaching kids about money in school. My talent was years as a CPA, years in publishing, and so I combined that. And most of us stop there thinking we have to do everything by ourselves.
Right.
But true success is the next element of times A, power of association. Do you have the right people on your team? Do you have people who are strong where you're weak? Do you have mentors? Do you have the right advisors? Do you have people that can your mini-me, somebody that can step into your role so everything's not relying on you? And then times A, taking action. How many times do we know what we're supposed to do? We just don't do it, right? And then all of it is wrapped with the plus F, faith. Have faith in yourself. Have faith in what you're doing. Have faith that it's needed and necessary. And have faith that you will succeed. And most of us, that F is actually fear. It holds us back from accomplishing.
Yes.
You know, we get paralyzed in fear. And so I help teach people how to identify that fear and then turn it into energy and focus so you can keep moving and turn it into faith. Because you can grow the faith when you focus on what your passion is, what your purpose, what's your definite purpose, what problem are you solving, what need are you serving. Never lose sight of the problem you're solving or the need that you're serving, because that brings you back to center and to why you're doing what you're doing, and it keeps you going forward.
Absolutely, 100%, and I agree. It comes back to the root cause of why you want to do it. Like, for example, I started my company, EverForward Capital Partners, to serve people like my mother in Main Street America. To say, there is a problem here that there's people like my mother, whether they're single mothers or there's parents, that are doing everything right, but they still feel trapped. They can't breathe financially. But when they invest correctly and when they start to learn financial literacy and remove themselves from financial illiteracy, they can understand how to build the future and how to go back to the things that really matter. Like, for example, true wealth for me is spending time with my mother, my grandmother, and also trying to build a family at some point, and to really keep myself in the present moment for the things that matter. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. But now I want to talk about something that keeps getting thrown around like horseshoes and hand grenades, the term capitalism. People think you have two sides of the spectrum. You have entrepreneurs like us that think capitalism is great and it's a foundational need in the economy. And then you have people that say capitalism is bad. But why? Why do you think people say that capitalism is bad, even though you and I believe that it's good?
Well, the essence is that they're probably referring to rich people who are not nice. There are rich people who only care about themselves, and that was the essence of true wealth, to understand that. I have a lot of people I know that are billionaires, multimillionaires, and they're very rich, but along the way they lost their family, they lost their health, because all they focused on was the money, not true wealth. True wealth is building strong families, strong relationships, strong communities, giving back, and yes, of course, financial wealth, but having all of that is true wealth. And so when people think about capitalism as bad, they think about somebody who's really not a nice rich person, right?
Right.
But capitalism is creativity. Our country was based on free people with free speech, offering free markets that provide for free enterprise. All four of those freedoms are under attack right now. But capitalism is creativity. Capitalism is taking the opportunity to use the free markets to create a free enterprise that solves a problem or serves a need. That's capitalism. And for that, you create value that people pay you for, and you get profit that you can then redeploy to create more value. So that is the essence of true capitalism.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that too. But I also want to kind of dive into you, for example. What has been the hardest lesson that you learned that helped change the course and trajectory of your life, whether it's professionally or personally?
Well, I think the hardest lesson for me always is that no matter how much I care about somebody, no matter how much I spend time with them, If they don't make the decision to help themselves, it's not going to happen. And so I have the tagline, you are the CEO of your life, right? So many people have this scarcity mindset and they refuse to let go of it. And no matter what you do, I cannot change your life, only you can. People come up to me all the time and say, you changed my life, or your book changed my life. And I always stop them and I go, I am so glad something that I wrote inspired you to change your life. But take the ownership. If you changed your life for the better because of something I wrote, you did it, I didn't. There's 44 million books out there. We don't have 44 million millionaires. We have people who read it, were inspired, and took action. So stand in your own power and own the fact that you took action. But my biggest regret is when I see somebody and I know how they could do things differently and create wealth, and they just refuse to do it.
Absolutely. It's the proverbial, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And, I do the same thing with my peers, my friends, and also people that connect with me online. I teach them what I do, and I give them everything I possibly can to succeed and also to join me on my journey, and then they don't. And it's hard for me to witness. It's like I want to keep helping them, but I did the best I could. I put it into their hands, and then it was their choice. So I feel the same way. And I also kind of want to dive into my generation, for example. For me in high school, we weren't taught much financial literacy, much of anything. We were taught about, how to invest in the stock market, start your own business, which inspired me to do what I am doing today. But how can we, at the home base, with our friends and with our family, start teaching about financial literacy? Where do we begin with that?
Well, first you just start talking about it. You start having open conversations about money, because people think money's evil. No, it's the love of money that's evil. Money is a powerful tool. You can use it to make your life better, make other people's lives better. But you have to create the underlying asset. You're financially free when the income from your assets exceed your monthly expenses. That means you've gotten your time back. You've created enough assets generating and working hard for you that you get your time back. And that time gives you more time with your family, more time to spend on charitable endeavors, contribute to society, educate others about money. And that's a true gift, when you can add value to other people's lives by teaching them about money, you make a difference, because financial education is the gift of a lifetime.
I agree. And Zig Ziglar once said, you can get anything you want in life as long as you give others, or get people what they also want. I'm probably wordsmithing it, but it's very similar in the lines that he was talking about. And that's why I love, teaching financial literacy. The more people I could teach, the better. My mother, she actually wears starfish earrings for a reason, because have you ever heard the starfish story before? Exactly. And for my viewers out there, if you've been following me for a while, you already know what I'm talking about. Just make a difference to somebody. Just, share something.
It matters to this one.
Exactly. Make a difference to somebody so you can rest at night and going, I helped somebody. I tried to help somebody to the best of my ability. And I guess my next question is, Sharon, where do you see the country going with financial literacy? Where do you see the economy heading for my generation? Because my generation is the next generation to take up the torch of businesses, of politics, of entrepreneurship. Where do you see us going, and should there be a change for us to start making a good change or start changing our direction to make sure that we're on the right path?
Well, that's been my goal since December of 1992, and I'm still as passionate about it as possible to get financial education in the school system. Because if we want every child to have equal opportunity, every child needs to learn about money. You've heard the phrase, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Well, that's because they're learning about money at home. Now, 10 years ago, there were only a couple of states that had personal finance class required for high school graduation. About 6 years ago, there were 8. Today we have 30. They're not all active yet, but 30 have passed the legislation. I will not rest until all 50 states require a full semester of personal finance education for children before they graduate from high school. That's where it starts, because that gives every child an equal opportunity to understand the opportunity to build a business, the opportunity to create assets, the opportunity to invest. And that's where it starts. But if you are a parent, a concerned aunt, uncle, adult, don't wait for that. Take it upon yourself to start educating kids about money. We have programs at SharonLechter.com to help you teach a child how to start a business, how to play a game called Thrive Time for Teens that teaches a teen that every decision they make whether it's money or time, determines if they're moving towards success or not. And it's humorous, it's real life decisions that kids make, and it makes a huge difference. And it's got a lot of humor in it, so that's available at SharonLechter.com. But it's so important, so many people just put their head in the sand. They think the problem will go away, they don't want to deal with it, so they don't. And you really have to take the bull by the horns and teach the young people that you care about money as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Either you're going to be the one or it's not going to happen, or somebody's going to take your place. It's very similar to stewardship. Are you going to be that steward? Are you going to be the one that's going to carry the torch to spread the mission to help as many people as you can? And speaking of helping people, Sharon, I have a question for you. What note would you leave for somebody that's either a young entrepreneur, a young capitalist, a young investor? What piece of advice would you leave for them on the show?
Well, God created you to be you. Not me, not you, not somebody else. He gave you all the tools you need to succeed, and you are the CEO of your own life. So dedicate yourself to learning one step at a time. Understand money, because it's going to give you the power of choice. Money gives you options. Make yourself contribute in other ways as well. Give your time. But build assets so that you get to the point where you get your time back and you can help people's lives go. But you can do it. You have the opportunity to do anything you want. Just pay attention, understand who you hang out with. Very important. Who's in your network. Surround yourself with people who are also striving for success. People who will challenge you, push you. But that power environment is so important. And pay attention to how you're using your time. Are you spending your time, or are you investing your time in your future?
So well said. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with Sharon Lechter, go to SharonLechter.com as well. And please, get some of her books and read them. I highly recommend them. I have learned quite a bit, and it's helped me to change some of my ways to become a better entrepreneur, a better son, and also a better man for my peers, my investors, and my business partners as well. And to my audience out there, build yourself better and bigger every day. Live better, live bigger, always move ever forward. And think bigger and see who you can help to make a difference to that one person. Sharon Lechter, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom. It has been an honor.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a true pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely.